Thank you very much, everyone, for joining this morning. And good morning. Thanks for joining us. My name is Sean Chamberlin. I'm a principal consultant here at PhoenixDX, which is a leading software development company. And today I'll be providing a practical demonstration of just how fast it can be to leverage AI to modernize your existing legacy applications. So compared to traditional approaches, it can certainly be less than half the time, half the cost, a lot less risk, and importantly, it can also be done in a way that is not just a lift and shift of your existing functionality, but it can be genuinely transformational. So I've got a few slides just to provide a bit of context and give you a bit of an overview of what's involved, and then I'll actually be going into a specific demonstration. Okay, so first of all, just a quick overview on why the need, understanding the problem. And as you're probably already aware, legacy technology does not just increase costs, but it also distracts existing staff in a way that prevents organisations from innovating, reducing the time to market and creating data silos that can severely impede the ability to generate data insights and learn from them. Importantly, they can also be an attractive target for cyber attacks, as many are not compliant with security standards, and their limitations can encourage poor practices, which I've often seen, such as exchanging data and reports via Excel attachments in email. So the need, I think, is fairly compelling, poses the question, though, around what is the best approach. There have been a lot of fears associated with modernising in the past, often for good reason. Probably the first one that I find comes up with most of the clients I speak to is the fear of breaking something. If it's working at the moment, even if it is legacy, why touch it? The second issue that comes up all the time is the difficulty associated with estimating the migration complexity and what is involved with actually moving forward. Often it's just a bit of a black hole, the legacy applications. You don't have experts that understand what the data looks like and how difficult it's going to be to migrate that data in particular. And if you look at the statistics, they're not great. 1 in 6 projects, for example, run more than 70% over schedule. So the statistics don't support encouraging a modernisation approach. The answer to this really is knowledge. And when I say knowledge, I mean knowledge about the existing legacy platform that can be leveraged in a way to mitigate those risks. And if you look at it now, things have changed over the last few years. The last 12 months in particular, there's been enormous advancements in AI. It is possible now with the OutSystems AI engine to not just fully automate that discovery process up front around your existing legacy platform, what data entities, what formats exist, what relationships, the validations, the embedded business logic, all of that can be discovered automatically and translated into a requirements document. But in addition to that, you can also actually automate the development process and the ongoing maintenance in a way that automates tracking of code quality with constant improvement suggestions as you go on. So what is possible? So I'll just go into some practical examples of what has been achieved. First of all, the demonstration I'm going to be going through, for those that are not already familiar with it, it's going to be based upon the OutSystems platform, and those not familiar with it, it's the #1 rated low-code platform by organisations like Gartner, Forrester and TrustRadius. It's a full-stack platform, enterprise-grade. It's compliant with all the major security standards and has fully open APIs which enable integration with anything. 200+ API integrations that come out of the box, plus a toolkit to build APIs with anything you need. So the reason I mention this is just to show that the example I'm going to be demonstrating will be to a modern platform. So the process in comparison, historically, if you wanted to actually modernize a legacy application, you'd have to actually initially understand what tech stack it sits on, what the navigation hierarchies look like, the data entities, the business rules, what the data quality looks like, all the workflows, user roles, integrations. All those aspects take considerable time and considerable risk when, generally speaking, your staff are actually consumed with a day-to-day business as usual operations of the IT department and don't have the time to actually do all that, even if it's possible and you have access to it. Moving forward, it's a very different world. The key thing, if you look at the first column there on the inputs, you can now build a new application based upon simply providing a web URL or the existing code base to your existing application. So if you have access to that, just put the URL in and it will fully discover the whole lot. If you have a requirements document or a solution architecture document, you can use that as the input. If you don't have one, it can create it for you. Alternatively, if you have none of that and no documentation whatsoever, it's also possible to simply use a textual prompt. So it might be that you simply say, I want to create a health-specific case management application that manages patients, clinicians, documents, cases. That's enough to be able to go and create a fully functional application. AI will build the first version. The factory AI tool that I'll be demonstrating shortly uses an LLM to then analyze the legacy application, and based upon what it comes back with, it will fully document the requirements document for you. So that gives you a little bit of context around how it compares. Some examples of the ones we've actually already done. So the first one there, for example, Coates, they had a legacy ERP. They had multiple instances of it. There was a lack of standardization, siloed data. It was desktop only, so there was no modern interface at all. And they'd already, by the time we engaged with them, they'd already spent 1 year analyzing ERP options in the marketplace. The vendors that they had approached gave them an estimate of a 3-year time frame to replace their ERP. We came in and with the OutSystems platform, leveraging AI, delivered a replacement ERP in less than 1/3 of that time, so less than 1 year. And importantly, in that first year, they achieved a reduction in their maintenance and operation costs by over 35%. So it can be quite transformational, both in terms of time and in what you actually achieve. I'm not going to go through all of those other examples at this stage, but it's important to note that the typical time frame for these projects would have been double at least, if not for the low-code approach with AI acceleration. Okay, so the best use cases. So this slide just provides a little bit of context. Generally, there are 3 approaches that you can take. One, which is often used, is where you've got an existing application and you just want to encapsulate that application to improve the user interface. So you can leave the database as it is and just create a mobile-centric, available anywhere, offline, fully compliant interface for all the users with all the bells and whistles. And that is a use case that is quite common. Alternatively, you could rebuild it or you could replace the entire app. Both those scenarios will clearly be more transformational, but with transformation obviously comes more time, more risk. The latter scenarios, the main areas we see those, as I've got the boxes down below, a lot of the legacy applications as they get to end of life or end of support, such as the Xamarins and InfoPaths, SAP, ECC6 is another one, Lotus Notes. Those sorts of applications are increasingly having the customers wanting to look away from them and consolidate their applications onto a single platform. So we're doing a lot of that sort of work. Secondly, there's a lot of the time organizations have used, you could call it sort of low-code style platforms like the Microsoft Access style applications, often even in Microsoft Excel applications are built. Other applications like Oracle Apex are commonly used, and they can proliferate throughout the organization very rapidly. The biggest problem with that can often be just the siloed nature with which they're built. So lack of integration, lack of consistent data specs, and hence reporting, holistic reporting is extremely difficult. So all of that is possible to be replaced. Okay, now on to the exciting part, which is the actual practical demonstration. So first of all, I'm just going to show you exactly what this is going to involve. There's two examples here of what I'm going to go through. The first one is just a simple form, very typical form of what you'd see in many applications. As you can see, there's sort of about 20 or so fields on the form. They've all got some validation routines specific to each field, but it's just one screen. And I've deliberately got that to be fairly simple so I can demonstrate it quite easily. The second one is a complex case management application that we had, which, as you can see with the dimensions down the bottom, there's thousands of lines of code that's involved in this, quite complex, lots of different modules. The extract that you can see there on the screen was automatically produced. We had no documentation whatsoever on this system. All we did was point the code base to Factory AI, and it automatically produced this requirements document for us. So both of these scenarios I'm going to go through shortly. Okay, so now this here I've just brought up is the Factory AI engine within OutSystems. And probably the first thing I'll point out here, as you can see, is these are all templates that exist straight out of the box that you don't really have to do anything for to be able to define migration templates. So if you're migrating from Adobe, from a screenshot, from an image, from InfoPath, from Lotus Notes, all of these processes for migrating from legacy have already been defined and can be leveraged. Alternatively, you can create your own migration path, and that's quite simple. I'm going to be going through doing two of these examples today to demonstrate how you can just simply take a screenshot from a legacy application and build a whole new app based upon that. And secondly, I'm going to show how you can actually take a very complex code base with no documentation and create a new app from that. So they're what we call migration templates. In order to actually build a new one, I'm going to go through now and show you the first example that I just demonstrated on the previous slide, which was that simple screenshot of one form. I've created this project here just simply called Webinar Demo. And down the right-hand side here, you can see all the artifacts associated with that. So the first thing I want to do is just import the screenshot that I've got. That's the only information that I have. I've gone to the old legacy application, I've taken a screenshot, and I'm going to upload it. You can see here, I've just got here form. Save that. That is saved now. If I wanted to, I don't have to do this, but if I wanted to, I could go and interrogate it. So I'm going to go into now what's called chats. And in chats here, this is just a way to interrogate any information you have about the documents that you've actually uploaded. So what I'm going to do is just type into here, into the editor window, please provide information on the fields in the form. And I've just got there the image, which is the form.png document that I just uploaded. Press that, and it is now going off to the form, having a look at it, and it's actually going to effectively interrogate that and find out all the information. Here we go. It's just come back already. Click on that to expand it, and you can see it's just defined all the fields, including the validations associated with them. So you can see in here the ABN numbers, the names, the addresses, the emails, everything about all the fields. If there were cross-field validations, any other business rules, all that would come up here as well. Now, I'm going to continue to forge ahead, but that shows you can interrogate and find out that information. So we'll go back into the project again here, and we're now going to go and build the app. So add application, select the migration. So in here, you select the migration template. I'm just going to simply create a new form from an image. which is the image that I just uploaded. I give it a name. So what should we call it? New application form will do. Save that, run it, and it's now in the process of building the application. If I just refresh the screen, you'll see it's running through the steps, and there's only 2 steps involved at the moment. It's got the LLM actually interrogating the information on the form and then just building the application from it. Refresh that again, and you can see the form now has already come up here. So this now, when I click on it, you'll see it's got all the information about the form that's just been created. And what if we've got 17 different fields? I can export that to form factor, and form factor is just the tool that provides the runtime information that you can interrogate and query. Export it to there, open the form, and here we go. Everything to do with the form, which you can, if you want to, you can edit the labels, the field formats, what type of field they are, the order in which they appear on the screen. Any of that information is available for editing if you want to. Or you can just say, I'm happy with it as it is, and here it is. This is a working version of it. So that took me, a couple of minutes, and it's all up and running now. I can enter this. It's a fully working version of the system. Now, this is fairly basic. As you can see, there's just the 17 fields on a form, and there's not a lot of logical workflow to it. So I've got another example that I'm going to show you as well. So just run through something a bit more complex. And this second example, to be clear, was just run through exactly the same process. So this is where I simply took the code base of an existing application, pointed it to Factory AI. It created a requirements document for me, which is the document I just showed you a couple of slides ago, and imported it in here. And I'm now just going to go into a tool here called ODC Studio, and that's how you can interrogate it and make any updates. Each one of these boxes here, as you can see, is involved in the workflow of it. Up the top here, you can see events, interfaces, logic, and data associated with it. And on the interface tab are all the different screens. So I'll, for example, go into here, and I might want to have a look at the dashboard. Here, all the dashboard is associated with it. So it's got graphs, it's got drill down capability. I can update this if I want to. I can go into any of the fields here and add whatever business logic associated with that I want. Or I could go across here and have a look at the data. And the easiest way probably to look at the data, so I'm just going to go in and create, for those that aren't familiar with an entity relationship diagram, it's just a way of depicting the relationships between data. So I'm going to create an entity relationship diagram, and all the data entities in here, I'm going to select, put them in here, and here is a working version of the application. Keep in mind that all I have done at this stage is just simply point the code base of a legacy application to the Factory AI tool. It has automatically created all of this for me. I can go and update any of this. If I wanted to go in here and actually have a look at, say, the patient details, you can see all the attributes associated with it here. I could go in and update, look at the gender field. If I want to change that from a text to a Boolean or any other format, you can do that. You can make any updates to this that you like. Publish in is one click. So I'll publish this now. And as you can see, what it's now doing is it's publishing the data, the validations, the workflows, the business rules, everything associated with this app is all getting published at the moment. And this will come up. Here we go. It's already ready. Open in a browser. And here we have a fully working health-related case management application with dashboard. I can go in here now and fully use this. It's actually imported sample data into it as well. So if I want to, say, click on one of these, you can see a treatment plan here. It's got all the information about it. If I wanted to have a look at, say, the patient information here, there's a whole heap of different sample patients. I'll emphasize these are not real information, of course. I want to add a new patient. Here we go. Here's a screen for adding a new patient. So I can enter in whatever name I like. So I'll put in my own details here. When was I born? 2010 will do. Gender. Now, as you can see here, this is not a drop-down field. If I wanted to change this from a text field to a drop-down field, I'd just simply go straight back into the tool I was in a moment ago and just change the format. Contact information. I can type in here, address. Oops. I can't type. Medical history. So in this case, say I'm scheduling myself in for surgery. Okay, so that's insurance information. Okay, save. Okay, now if I go back, I can look at cases. I can look at that information. I can actually look at, I can navigate around, and you can see a fully working system here. So that took all of less than 5 minutes to create this fully working system. As you can see, not a lot involved in it at all. Importantly, as I mentioned earlier, this system now will be subject not just to the AI that built it, that defined the requirements and built it, but this system now will also actually be subject to ongoing maintenance best practices automated through AI. So any suggestions for code improvement will come through automatically. Things like security, integration best practices, those sorts of things will automatically be recommended and automated. So that gives you a bit of a quick demo as to how fast and easy it actually is to build a new application. I've just built two, one very simple form and one case management application in the space of a few minutes each. Now, what I want to do now is just mention, so next steps, really if you wanted to have any further discussion on this, normally what we do is we can easily run a proof of concept or a live demonstration based upon a particular use case that you have yourself. If you have any legacy applications and you just like initially just to have a coffee catch up and you'd like to understand what's possible, how easy it may be to actually migrate it onto a modern platform, give me a call or send me an email. My details are down on the bottom of the form there, and I'd be more than happy to come along and talk to you. Now, any questions? I'd love to go through them. Okay, so first of all, there's a question here about legacy platforms that are best with this. So I mentioned on one of the slides about ones that are past end of life. So for example, InfoPath, Lotus Notes, those sorts of platforms certainly are great use cases for this. Another one that I'd say is very common are tools that are used sort of within a pseudo low-code kind of context, like the Microsoft Access, Excel, Oracle Apex. We see a lot of those because they're not enterprise grade. They do have their limitations, but they're great just for standing up a very quick and easy prototype. So when you get to the stage that you want them to be more mature, they are excellent use cases. But we also do a lot of work with larger applications as well. And I mentioned the Coates one before. That was a very large ERP system. And ERPs are probably a classic example of systems that are designed to sort of do everything and be everything. And hence, they're not necessarily a lot of the legacy ones built to be really good at integration with other platforms. So yeah, if that's one of the use cases that you're after, absolutely, they're relevant as well. I hope that answers your question. Can we get the presentation slide after the webinar? Yes, that is fine. I'm happy to share those. Send me an email if you'd like any more information as well, and I'm happy to share more details with you. Another question about, is this primarily for updating legacy systems or is it applicable for new builds? Okay, so it's important to note, and I'll go back to one of the previous slides here. Okay, on this slide here, the pathway for a legacy application is the one that I just demonstrated now, where you take a migration template and you understand, you do the discovery on the legacy system and you automatically through the LLM produce a requirements document and progress that down that path. If you're building from scratch, absolutely, yes, you can do that as well. There's another AI tool within OutSystems called Mentor. You can build that purely from a textual description. You can build it from a requirements document, from an architecture document, whatever level of documentation you have, and no matter how incomplete it may be. The best way to do it, because the issue often that users have got is, they don't know what they don't know necessarily. So you can't actually produce a detailed requirements documentation. What this enables you to do is to stand up a working prototype very, very rapidly that you can put in front of your users for a new application, and they can look at it and say, we love this, don't like that, and you can then adjust it. Hopefully that answers that question, and I think that's it for the Q&A at the moment. So if there are any more questions, please feel free to email them through. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the session and look forward to the next one. Thank you very much.